Wicking tubs, or self-watering containers, are an awesome way to avoid overwatering and underwatering of your container plants, both in a covered space such as a hoop house or high tunnel, or outside in the garden. A quick online search will reveal a variety of methods for constructing these wicking buckets. Some work very well, and some not so much. In an earlier video, I showed you how we corrected a design flaw in our popular 15-gallon self-watering container. In this video, I show you several successful ways to make a 5-gallon pail into a wicking tub, and one that was not so successful.
Hello, this is Stephen from Short Season Garden, and I offer tips and tricks for gardening in any climate, but especially for short seasons like here in Zone 3 in Eastern Canada. So give my video a thumbs up and a comment, subscribe to my channel, click the notification bell, or you can check me out on Instagram or Facebook at Short Season Garden.
The concept of a self-watering container, often referred to as a wicking tub or wicking bucket, is a great solution to the problem of over and under watering a container garden. Basically, it involves a water reservoir, a wick, a fill tube, and a soil compartment where the plant or plants are grown. My first wicking tubs that I still use today were designed by my friend Donnie. They use a large 15-gallon tub, complete with cover, sourced from a local manufacturer. We reduced the circumference of the cover so we could use it as a false bottom to our container. The false bottom was supported by a series of screws around the circumference. We used two sections of 4-inch PVC pipe filled with soil to wick up the water to the plants. A section of 1.25-inch PVC conduit was used as a fill tube to add water to the reservoir. It is very important to have an overflow hole drilled about a 1/2 inch below the false bottom to create an airspace between the plant roots and the water. This space causes the roots to air prune so they don't drown in the water below. As mentioned in the introduction, these wicking tubs work well outside or under cover. We did learn after one of our false bottoms collapsed to make sure additional screws were added around the top of our wicking tubes to give extra support, or alternatively to use recycled containers in place of screws to support the false bottom. Although I love these 15-gallon containers, they can be hard to source and are bulky to move and take a lot of space in a small hoop house. 5-gallon or 20-liter pails, on the other hand, are readily available. These pails may be a bit small for indeterminate tomato plants, but they are ideal for cucumbers or cherry tomatoes. You can even get by with smaller pails for dwarf tomatoes or herbs. I will first show you 3 successful ways to make these tubs, and then I'll show you the way that started out well but ended with root rot. If your 20-liter pail comes with a cover, you can use the cover to make a false bottom like we did with our larger containers. Drill a starter hole for your saw blade and then carefully cut around the edge of the cover, reducing its circumference. You may need to do this several times to get the perfect fit. For a wick, I used a pencil holder that I obtained from the local dollar store. Alternatively, you could use an old plant pot or a net cup obtained from your hydroponics supplier. For a fill tube, I went to my local hardware and purchased a 10-foot section of 2-inch PVC pipe designed for a central vac system. It fit nicely through the pour spout on the bucket lid that I was using for a false bottom. It is important to cut the bottom end of your fill tube at an angle so the water can easily escape from the tube into the water reservoir at the bottom of the pail. I measured the length of the fill tube needed from the bottom of the pail to slightly above the top and cut it to length. Next, I placed my pencil holder, plant pot, or net cup against the false bottom and traced around the bottom. Then carefully cut out around the hole to leave a tight fit. This step may not be necessary, but I decided to drill holes in the bottom of the wick to ensure all the water left in the bottom of the reservoir would find its way to the plant in the event that I let the water level get too low. Although the false bottom fit snugly in the pail at the desired level, I took the extra precaution of putting some miniature drinking cups around the wick to ensure that the bottom didn't collapse. It is extremely important to drill an overflow hole about 1/2 inch below the false bottom to make sure that the roots are never sitting in water. I like to put an old piece of floating row cover or landscape fabric in the bottom of the container to make sure the soil doesn't escape into the water reservoir. I like to fill my containers with a mixture of good quality potting soil and well-rotted manure or compost, making sure to pack the soil into the wick before filling the rest of the container. It is important after planting to initially water the soil directly, especially if the soil contains a lot of peat, which can become quite hydrophobic if allowed to dry out too much. After the initial watering, all water should be added through the fill tube, stopping when the water starts coming out the overflow hole in the side of the pail. The second method, which I will show you, gives you a slightly larger growing space than the false bottom, although it is more expensive if you have to purchase your pails. Instead of using the cover of your pail for a bottom, you can simply use 2 pails, one inside the other. This time, before measuring the length of your fill tube, you will want to make sure you stack your pails. You will have to cut a hole for your fill tube as well as for your wick in the bottom of the top pail. I still like to drill holes in the bottom of my wick to ensure that any water left in the bottom of the pail can seep up into the wick. The last step before filling your pail with soil is to put the 2 pails together and drill your overflow hole. I noticed on the internet that some wicking tub makers, instead of making a separate compartment for their water reservoirs, were simply putting containers such as soda cans or milk jugs in the bottom of their bucket to hold the water. I made my first try at this using an icing pail obtained from the bakery at my local supermarket. For my water reservoir, I took a bunch of soda cans and drilled 2 holes in the side of each, one near the top and the other near the bottom. These I placed in the bottom of my pail upside down. For a fill tube, I took an old water bottle, cut off the top, and taped a section of 1.25 inch pipe in the top of the bottle. I drilled several holes in the side of the bottle to let the water seep out into the reservoir. I then filled the top of the container with soil, making sure I packed in the soil between the soda cans to act as a wick. I first used this wicking tub indoors to grow tomato plants under a grow light, using a float instead of an overflow hole to make sure there was always an airspace at the top of the soda cans. When I moved the wicking tub outdoors, I replaced the float with an overflow drain hole about an inch below the top of the soda cans. The soda can wicking tub works well, but I find it cumbersome to fill since the water rushes up the fill tube and is very slow to make its way through the soda cans. I have seen several renditions of milk jugs used as wicking tub reservoirs, so even though I was a bit dubious, I decided to give it a try. I drilled several holes at the bottom of my milk jug to let the water escape, and some at the top to let air in. After cutting my fill tube to length, I cut off the bottom end at an angle. I carefully marked around the fill tube at the top of the jug, cut off the top, and inserted the tube. Upon measuring the jug, I noted that it was about 8.5 inches tall, and my air holes at the top were about 7 inches up. I marked the pail at 6 inches and drilled my overflow hole. I inserted the milk jug next to the overflow hole, filled the remainder of the pail with potting soil, and planted 3 patio snacker cucumber plants on June 3rd. Then I filled the jug with water. By July 1st, I had inserted a trellis in the pail and the cucumbers were looking fine. In this photo on July 6th, they were climbing the trellis and blossoms were showing. By July 14th, I had some nice looking cucumbers. On July 15th, I proudly posted on Instagram when I picked my first cucumber. By July 21st, there were cucumbers hanging over the side of the pail. Even on July 28th, there were no obvious signs of trouble. But then things went south in a hurry. On July 31st, there were obvious signs of root rot. By the second day of August, I knew I was in trouble. I decided it was time for a post-mortem. What I found was some very soggy soil and a collapsed milk jug. In retrospect, perhaps I should have filled the flimsy jug with water before packing the soil around it. Perhaps I should have had my overflow hole lower. Personally, I still don't like a water reservoir that only partially fills the bottom of the planting bucket, giving soil a chance to fill the bottom of the bucket and clog the overflow hole. If you have suggestions what I should have changed, or if you have successfully made a milk jug wicking bucket, please respond in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, click the notification bell, and we'll see you in the next video.